What's the worst scandal to happen at your school? Part 2. Story 21. In middle school, 8th grade / early 2000s, one of the hot girls sent a couple nude pictures to her boyfriend, and it wasn't long until half the school had them. Police ended up becoming involved to make sure any copies were destroyed. In high school, there was a little scandal involving the teachers and the teachers' club called the Hot Tub Club. Faculty members that had hot tubs would host a weekly hot tub party with other hot tub owners. Turns out they were all getting wasted and having a swinging party every Wednesday. Somebody's spouse found out about it, and there was a huge exodus of hot tub teachers my senior year. Edit. The main people involved with the photo were reprimanded but not charged. The girl had to sit down with a counselor to discuss what happened, and we all had a big assembly to discuss the consequences that could happen if people shared those kind of images. It scared a lot of kids straight. Nobody was fired from the school for being in the hot tub club. The teachers left because it was convenient timing with the opening of another high school, and there was constant babble about it. Just for clarity, this all happened in a small town in Western Canada. By the looks of my inbox, both are not uncommon occurrences. Story 22. A girl in my middle school was telling people she had a hit list of people she was going to kill. Got caught with the list and was sent to a hospital for a while. She came back a few years later in high school. Edit. Seems like a lot of people had a similar occurrence in school. This was in Michigan. Story 23. An overachieving student in my year went nuts and pooped in a bag in a teacher's classroom. She also thought she could run up trees. Turns out she didn't end up skipping a few years and going to uni early like she was predicted to. Story 24. A guy in year 10 made a statement that the more compact a group of people are, the higher the death toll would be in a shooting, and we were genuinely talking about shootings and somehow people mistook it that he was gonna do it. It was a joke and everyone was playing along at first. Cut to 11 months later, he was in year 11, the whole school knows, rumor got out, the truth was beyond effing twisted and changed to something different. Kids were actually scared to come in, parents were peed, teachers were anxious, they had to search the kid. They kicked him out 9 days before he finished for good. Was still allowed to do exams, but had to do it separately from everyone else. The police were involved and it made the news, but the news article is complete fake and BS. He also wasn't allowed to prom. This was around 4 to 5 years ago. He told me he was doing a lot better now. He went to a better school for sixth form. He says whilst he has moved on with his life, he will never forgive the bastards. Also, we live in England and guns are much harder to get, especially to the average person who knows nothing about how to get guns. I'm all for being careful what you say in schools, especially in this day and age where sadly shootings are something to be worried about. However, I feel like there needs to be a line. Maybe the joke wasn't in the best taste, but if there was no evidence at all beyond a bad joke, to put that kid and the school through that is wrong. Story 25. Some students broke into a local elderly reverend's home to rob him thinking he was away. He sadly wasn't, and they proceeded to bludgeon him and his wife to death while they were sleeping with baseball bats and beer bottles. They were caught pretty quickly, and although their names legally couldn't be published because they were minors, everyone including the local media knew who committed the crime. Media caused a circus at our school for weeks, harassing any student for commentary. Many did because they thought it was cool. Although these 3 kids, 13, 14, 15, were known to cause trouble, no one ever suspected they would be capable of a double homicide. Story 26. Not that scandalous. A friend's stuff kept going missing, like books and pens. It didn't stop even after multiple complaints from him, and the teacher didn't really care. His mom screamed at the teachers, and the principal did her own investigation and concluded that it was a boy who stole from the guy. The principal decided to call the male students' parents to talk to them. After a year, it turns out that the thief was a girl, and she yeeted the guy's stuff out the window because the guy was bullying her. Story 27. We had a computer teacher / football assistant coach who was just blasted all day, had so many DUIs he had to get rides to work, but was the cousin of the superintendent, so he kept his job. Let's just say that when he crashed a student's car in the parking lot because he convinced them to let him borrow it, that was the beginning of the end of it. It was a small town. The scandal is that the super tried to cover it up by trying to convince the kid to take the heat for it. To no one's surprise, the kid was not convinced. They let him stay on as super for another 2 years. It's almost like people in power, even when there are repercussions for their actions, still get away with more than anyone else. And I'm willing to bet that former superintendent found good work somewhere else. Story 28. My religion teacher was relocated after rumors spread that he harassed a female student and hit a male student. I never found out if those rumors were true, but I mean, there had to be something because teachers don't just get relocated in the middle of a school year. He was a butt. I wouldn't put it past him. In Germany, it's super hard to get fired as a teacher. I think you need a prison sentence to actually get fired. That's why he was only relocated. Story 29. My former high school got on the news for having a history teacher lie for 4 years about being a decorated war hero. Guy claimed to have not one, but 2 Purple Hearts among other things, and never even served a day in the military. Edit, I can't directly link to articles because of doxing, but I'm sure you can find it on Google. But it gets juicier. The truth came out because his ex-wife exposed him, sending evidence he was making it all up to local news stations and the school. Why'd she do it? The history teacher was having an affair with another teacher in my school. We have a lot of weird teachers at my school, but I think this story shows just how much the administration hardly vetted teachers. Like, holy crap. We also had a guidance counselor get the boot for being a racist, but that's another story that didn't get as much publicity. I thought we were going to find out that the teacher's name was actually Armin Tamzarian, and if you get that reference without Googling, I'm going to need to see ya. Let us never speak of this again in the comments. Story 30. One girl literally kicked on a guy's ball so hard that he had to be hospitalized. The girl was 15, the boy was 11, and there were no actions because of lack of evidence. Story 31. When I was in 3rd grade, I believe one of the principals at my school got arrested for disability fraud or something like that. Then, when I was in 7th grade, one of the teachers got arrested for being a pedo. Seems like a common theme in this comment section. LOL. Story 32. It was a couple years after I graduated, but the principal was caught giving money to gang kids and was demoted, and then a girl got caught having intercourse with a 40-year-old man in the school bathroom. Story 33. This happened between my sister and brother graduating, so it would have been 1996 or 1997. The high school AG teacher started dating a student at some point. Everyone knew about it and the parents consented. Our high school was and is small enough to still participate in senior trips, and the AG teacher went along as a chaperone when his girlfriend was a senior. They shared a hotel room when I believe the student was still technically a 17-year-old minor. At the time, I remember my parents being rather put off by it, but they still hired the guy as a summer farmhand. I don't remember if he was fired or stepped down, but by the time I made it to high school, we had a different AG teacher. They got married and had a child, divorced maybe 5 or 10 years ago. Their kid goes to our high school now. I don't know why it wasn't a huge deal at the time, but no one really raised a stink or threatened to call the authorities. Today it feels like a case of grooming by a predatory farm boy. You want to know why it feels like that? Probably because that's what it was. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day. Story 34. This girl accused a teacher who had been there for over 40 years of assault right before her entrance exam. It was a really good private school, so you needed to take a test to be considered for admission. The accusations were investigated and were found completely unfounded almost immediately. I don't know what this girl was thinking, like maybe she thought it was a way for her to get some leverage and improve her chances of getting in or something? What made the scandal even bigger was the actions of the school. They kept him in the dark for 2 months after the investigation was completed and were refusing to allow him back because of their insurance. Then a campaign was launched by a bunch of alums, and he eventually got back to teaching until his death a few years ago. He was a great guy, too. I had him for a political theory class, and he was really nice. He and his wife, aside from having children of their own, took in foster kids all the time, and he did a lot of other volunteer work. Sucks he had to go through all of that because of a lie. Story 35. Reading these, I think the scandals that happen at my school are minor in comparison. The ones I know were, a kid was busted hacking into the system trying to change his grades. I think there was a claim of computer addiction, but he wasn't allowed on a school computer for the rest of his time at the high school. A teacher was known for trying to pick fights with students. I called out his BS and he was given a slap on the wrist, but he didn't try it again after that. There was a student who was accused of having a bomb that was a complete fabrication. Outcome was ridiculously blown out of proportion. The guy was a bit of an outsider and had made a duct tape top hat. Someone made a sarcastic comment about him smuggling a bomb in it. He responded in same level of sarcasm. Someone gets it in their head that he has a bomb, and they decide to kick him out of school because of viable threat. I had a younger cousin who got kicked out of school because of joking about a bomb. I know it's dumb, but folks, I don't think any of the jokes or sarcasm are worth the risk. That kind of crap can stick with you, or worse, get you held back so you have to deal with more school. Story 36. In 1999, 4 girls from my high school went on a 6-week-long armed robbery spree. They knocked over 4 convenience stores and a bakery before police caught them. This happened in a conservative middle-class suburb, and altogether the girls got away with less than $5,000, which might have been the most scandalous part. If they'd gone into subprime lending, I'm sure their parents would have been very proud of them. Story 37. History teacher disappeared in the night with the French teacher's wife, and the other French teacher made national news for abusing boys. Story 38. My English teacher in the 11th grade was sleeping with the whole girls' basketball team in exchange for straight A's. I actually failed English that year, but then made the news. My school said I didn't have to go anymore because he wasn't doing the grading properly. Everyone who had his class got to B. Story 39. My graphics teacher was married to my math teacher, and one night he killed her during a domestic dispute. She was apparently having an affair and started taunting him about it in an argument while waving a fire poker at him. He grabbed it off her, hit her over the head, and killed her. He was sent to prison for manslaughter, not murder, as the court accepted there was no premeditation. My mom was also a teacher at the school and friends with both of them, so it had a big impact on my family as well as the school. Story 40. My female teacher, late 20s, early 30s, hooked up with my friend before he turned 18 and became obsessed with him. He eventually stopped responding to her. We found out that the next year she gave another kid a handjob on the bus ride back from senior trip. There was an investigation, but everyone involved denied it. The school had a big assembly on predators, and as far as I know, she still works there. Effing predator. How do some of these teachers get away with this crap? I don't care if the age of consent in whatever state or country that happened in happens to be lower. If that's the case, it's a teacher and a student. There is a power dynamic at play that just makes that crap wrong. Story 41. Some of my classmates were drug dealers and/or drug addicts. They smoked or whatever they did with their drugs in the school and were therefore high during lessons. You would think they just got caught smoking in school or being high, but nope. One of the drug dealers decided to sell drugs exactly under a police's camera. The police saw him, found him, and he proceeded to tell the name of every single person involved. The dealers, the clients, and even completely innocent people. This happened in the second last year of high school, but the clients were not only from my school, but even younger, like 14 years old. The school was all over the news, and the teachers did not trust us students for a very long time. Some just stopped completely and never did again. Story 42. Freshman year of high school. New history teacher. He was about 35. She was a freshman. They got caught doing the deed in the parking lot before school. They got married when she turned 16. If I remember correctly, they were married for 15-ish years before he passed away from a heart attack. Story 43. Content warning. R and homicide. Scroll forward 22 seconds to skip this story. One weekend, a couple of kids from the hockey team had a sleepover. One of the older boys from high school targeted them. He tied them up, arred them, slit their throats, and set the house on fire. One of the boys survived and is an incredible person. He's the chief of the fire department and has done motivational speaking. The murderer is now out on full parole. Story 44. Had a strict dress code that if the girls broke, had to change into clothes provided by the school. Turns out vice principal had a camera going in the dressing room. Story 45. A male science teacher and female PE teacher divorced, not sure if they just broke up, after she apparently cheated on him with a student. This may have been made up or exaggerated, but she was a massive flirt with the male students. Story 46. 3 kids broke into the school at night. They proceeded to spray paint one practice field, set fire to another, and burned a bunch of equipment. Thing is, one kid had a very recognizable pair of shoes, and they were caught a couple days later. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.